I shut the door and looked at the little zombie holding my thigh. It turned out that I hadn't been bitten by a zombie, that my child had been protecting me. Moon awoke to become a high-level zombie. I held her by the woman who was the king of the zombies. No zombie dared approach. That night I coaxed Moon to close her eyes. I fell into a dream myself. The zombies didn't break out. Mommy grew up safe and sound until she was 5 years old. I sent her to kindergarten. She hugged my neck and said she would protect my mother for the rest of her life. I cried so badly in my dream. When I woke up, Moon was staring at me with red eyes and calling for my mother to hold me. Only then did I realize that Moon was my redemption in my life in hell. She would protect me for the rest of my life, and I would protect her for the rest. Even if I turned into a little zombie, my mother's favorite little zombie, when it dawned, the gates of the villa were knocked again. Through my cat's eyes, a woman with a bare head in a rag was kneeling in the doorway, crying so hard that she looked up. I realized that it was an acquaintance. Kui Wangwen had also been driven out of the base. He couldn't hide from the captain that he had hooked up with the search and rescue crew. MRS. Kui Wen wore a nice leather bag. But there was no way to tie the chickens. The captain was a strict wife. Kui Wangwen was pressed by her wife, cut her long black hair with scissors, and lay on the ground praying for forgiveness. The men on the base would never fall in love with her again. The captain's wife turned on Kui Wangwen everywhere. She couldn't stand it. It wasn't so much being driven out as she had escaped, but when he got out of the base, he realized that his life wasn't easy outside. Without the help of his comrades, he was hungry, unable to get warm, scared, and a few times he ran away. As he spoke, Kui knocked at me and begged. "Shen Yu, take me in, I don't have anywhere to go. I'm guilty of killing your child. You can punish me any way you want, as long as you let me stay in the doghouse." I raised my eyebrows. "Why do you think I'll save a murderer who killed my daughter? I didn't kill you. I was sorry for your pregnancy. Do you know that Mommy was 5 when she died? Why didn't you think of it today when you were a victim?" Kui raised her head in a hurry. Her forehead was already bloodied. "Shen Yu, would you like to accumulate virtues for the dead child? I swear, if I can keep him, I will read the scriptures for Moon 100 times a day, and pay off his debts as a cow and horse in the next life." I watched her face with a flood of sorrow and tears. I suddenly remembered when Kui Wangwen took Qin Yi's arm and entered the opposite door. I peered at her through the iron door. She was wearing a red dress, very scantily clad. When she saw me, she turned her head back and squeezed a chill out of her nostrils. "It's so sad and polluting my eyes, and right now I'm grinning and crying so ugly." Kui's crying alarmed Xiao Yu, "You in the room." He walked to me impassively. The obvious zombie characteristics on his body made Kui jump to her feet. She didn't even cry out and collapsed to the ground. Step by step, she walked toward him, and he stepped out his snow-white teeth. Kui Wangwen ran away in tears. Mom turned to hug Yu and put herself in my arms again. There was a loud noise outside the yard. Kui Wangwen's cry drew the surrounding zombies. It couldn't escape. I climbed up the yard wall to see the rags flying on Kui Wangwen. He didn't even care to scream. I saw a familiar figure in the group of zombies surrounding him. a male zombie whose neck was almost gone. He was a tall man with twisted limbs. The moment I saw him, I knew he must be Qin Yi. Kui Wang Wen waved her arms wildly. The zombie bit her, and blood flew. I held Moon to cover his eyes. The child could not see. He sat quietly in my arms with me, his body cold, but my heart was hot and hot. Kui Wang Wen's rooster did not injure any of the zombies, except the strange one whose head and neck were nearly separated. Kui fell silent among the zombies. The zombie Qin Yi's head was crumbling. I laughed, waving a hand at him. Qin Yi was gone forever. At the sound, the zombie Qin turned in my direction, puzzled, and opened his mouth, as if to scream again, but he couldn't do it. His highly decomposed head fell to the ground, rumbling and being trampled into mud by the zombies. The zombie Qin Yin was also dead. His body fell to the ground, scattered clean by the hungry zombies. I climbed down the wall of the house with Moon in my arms, leaving the blood behind me. The clouds cleared today, and now the sun was out. I stared at the red sun with my eyes wide open, and I was struck by the bright light with physical tears. My heart was bright. I wanted to laugh and cry. I thought of the blood-stained iron gates in residential buildings, of the dark, desperate warehouses of oil fuel filling stations. Thinking of the broken wooden doors in the basement slum, I finally stopped looking at the familiar villa in front of me. Joy sat on the steps, holding his cheek, watching me intently. He was forever 5 years old, but that was okay. The fact that Moon had been recovered was something I was grateful for in itself. I had nothing to ask for but to live well with Moon in the end. The scar on my palm had healed into a scar that was nothing. My empty heart was filled with a new life once more by Moon.